Grimcast Manila is a podcast of creepy stories from around the metro. I'm your scaredy cat host, Antoinette, and I love a good ghost story. Tonight, we're talking to Joey D., former editor-in-chief of Pulp Magazine and former guitarist of seminal local acts Skychurch, Intolerant, Moyg, and currently of Alex in Wonderland. He also hosts a radio show called Adults Only on Jam 88.3 and co-hosts a horror pop culture podcast, Kill the Lights. Welcome to the show, Joey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Parang kailan lang.
So, getting right to it. As a lifelong metal fan, like you're clearly a super metal guy. You've loved metal ever since I've met you.
I think so, yeah.
Ever since ever. Clearly, you're attracted by the whole vibe of it, by the whole feeling of it. You know, the dark side.
The mythology, the supernatural element, yeah.
Sure. What started this fascination for you, or this like attraction to these kinds of things?
Well, like I always tell people, like I said a while ago, it wasn't really just the metal thing, the lower mythology of it. It was actually two things. One is I didn't really grow up in a regular setup. Like my childhood was pretty different. It was pretty unique because we grew up in the States. My first language was English.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically grew up, like any Asian American kid would grow up. In the States, they tell you, oh, ghosts don't exist. There's no such thing. So it was that kind of vibe at school. But at home, we were a very Filipino household. Both my parents are Filipinos. We're all Filipinos, basically. It was just a technicality why we grew up there because my dad was in the military. But like when we'd misbehave or when we were giving our parents a hard time, they'd always try to scare us into behaving. They'd say, in a few years, we're going to be going back to the Philippines. Papakain ka namin sa aswang. Or bad kids in the Philippines, their parents don't need to spank them because may momo or may multo na nagdidiscipline sa kanila. So it was that kind of thing. So that was planted in my mind. I was still living in this. I think I was in kindergarten, and we were not in the States anymore. We were in Okinawa, Japan. But the whole thing followed us.
Okay.
The whole mindset followed me that if I didn't behave, a supernatural creature would come out and we did have our fair share of stories back then. We had weird stories in Okinawa because, as everyone knows, the history behind Okinawa,
sure,
the wars that happened there. There were a few strange occurrences, but they didn't really bother us, or they didn't really play a big part.
Okay.
Compared to the stories that my mom would tell us. It was my mom who really scared the shit out of us. And as a teenager, again, when we finally went back to the Philippines, and then I got, I slowly got into music, and then I was noticing that, hey, this album cover, this Black Sabbath album cover has like the devil on the cover, and then all these album art, which I totally loved. I was totally obsessed with the album art, but I was the biggest scaredy cat of these album covers. Like I liked it. I was that guy. I was that kid who was scared but was peeking with one eye behind his hands because I was sort of intrigued by the whole thing. Because again, we grew up with
these stories,
with all these stories, like a shitload of stories, and I was lucky enough to actually personally witness a few occurrences of my own. Yeah.
All right. Let's get into it.
I guess one of the earliest stories I was ever told was so it was the 70s. My mom and my dad, they were in the States. They just moved to the States. It was just them. There was no internet. Communication wasn't easy. So basically they were just alone, the two of them. And my dad would get deployed. He was in the military, in the United States military. So my mom would, after I was born, after my sister and I were born, it was just my mom with two kids, and my dad would be on a boat or on a ship or wherever, military training. One of the earliest stories I remember she told me was they were, they had just moved to the States. They were in a piece of shit apartment making ends meet. And right across the apartment, there was a morgue.
Great.
And I was like, holy shit, this is a good story. And she was like, yeah, she'd be terrified of the morgue. And, you got to remember, this was like the late 70s, people, like, the world wasn't 24/7 yet. People
Yeah.
were in bed by 10 p.m. and whatnot. So, the mood, the setting, the times, they made for scary times. But I remember she was terrified being left alone in that apartment because she said that every night at around midnight, she'd feel something cold, like brushing against her cheeks. And then the first time it happened, she was really sleepy because, she had 2 kids to take care of and whatnot. The first night it happened, she tried to ignore it because she was just too damn sleepy.
Mhm.
She was like, I just need to sleep. I don't care what that is. But then it would happen for a second night. It happened for a third night. So
In a row?
In a row, yeah. So I get her interest was up. What the hell is that cold thing that keeps brushing up on because it would brush up on her face until she just fall asleep again, like continuously.
Was it like caressing her
It was
face?
like caressing. And so on the 4th or 5th night, I can't remember, she decides, okay, if I feel it again tonight, I'm going to fucking open my eyes and check it out.
She didn't used to open her eyes at all.
She didn't used to because she was just tired. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't have a washing machine, so she'd do all the laundry by hand in the small tub.
Yeah.
And then she had to feed me and my sister, and my dad wasn't there, and she didn't have any friends.
New
none
place,
of them. Yeah.
new town.
So on the 4th night, or on that night, that particular night, she decided to open her eyes. I remember what she said. She said it was a very tall Mexican-looking woman standing right beside her bed.
Okay.
And she was caressing her face.
With her hands?
And she was wearing all black.
Oh, great.
And she looked normal. She didn't look scary, but she had this sinister vibe about her. Because, what the fuck? It's a lady in black. I mean, I don't think goth was that big then. Plus, it would have been a lot scarier if it was an actual person. That means somebody broke in, right?
Every night.
Yeah, but no, she knew what it was. She knew it was out of the ordinary. She knew it was she knew something was wrong. So that happened. The succeeding nights it still happened, but she decided I'm not gonna fucking open my eyes. I know what it is.
Just chill
it's
there then.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
This is your thing.
So my dad returns from deployment, and she tells my dad the stories. Of course, my dad is, number one, he's part of the military. So, they're trained. It's ingrained in their brains that shit like this, it's not true.
Lady, you have cabin fever.
So, but to appease my mom, because he was going to be deployed again, they bought a bunch of wax figurines, St. Joseph,
like
Mary,
religious statues,
icons and whatnot. And they put it, they put like 2 each, 2 at the foot of her bed, 2 in my crib and 2 in my sister's crib.
Okay.
And then she went about her business. It stopped for a few days.
Okay.
But on after a few days, during that evening, she felt it again.
Mm-hmm.
It was during maybe 4 days after they put the figurines, and my dad was deployed by this time, so it was just her and me and my sister. So she felt it again. She didn't open her eyes. But the following morning when she woke up, she says, this is her story. She says, some of the figurines, they seemed melted.
Okay.
But they weren't candles. They were made of wax, but they weren't candles. It's not like, you lit them.
Yeah.
But some of them were melted. And worse, 2 of them, the ones at the foot of her bed, the heads seemed to be chopped off.
What?
And that's when they decided, when my dad returned, they were like, let's move to a new apartment.
Yeah.
So that was the earliest story I heard from my mom. And she was like, you know what, whoever that black fucking lady is, she like tortured me for like a month.
A month?
Yeah, because it ran that long.
And she was effectively the only adult in the house.
Yeah, she was the only adult in the house. She had 2 babies. And she was like, there were certain nights she knew me and my sister were crying. And we seemed to be bothered by something, because it wasn't like baby crying. It was like violent crying.
Like, something's wrong.
Yeah, something's wrong. So what she'd do is she'd check up on us.
Yeah.
But as soon as she saw that we were laying down, nothing was wrong, she'd just immediately go back to bed. because she was like, what, they seem to be so bothered by something. She was like, I know when a baby cries. I know the difference when a baby cries, when
it's a food cry, when it's a nappy cry.
And she was like, and it seemed like something was like really bothering us. So my mom was like, as early as you guys were babies, weird shit was already happening. and it was stuff that followed us.
Okay.
Because a few years later, we were in Okinawa, like I mentioned, we moved, and still a lot of strange things would happen in the house. Like I remember one time we moved the house. We were arranging the boxes and whatever.
So you were a bit older.
I was a bit older. I think I was in the first grade. My sister was in the second grade. It was my dad who was with us.
Okay.
And then my mom went to she went somewhere on an errand or whatever. I think to buy more boxes or to buy more tape. And then we were watching TV. It was 3:00 in the afternoon, and someone was knocking at the door, and it was my mom.
Okay.
And my mom was like, "Please open the door," like in her voice. So we're all running to the door, and we were like, "Oh, mommy's here!" Yeah. Because I figured she had candy or whatever. She'd always like have treats and whatever. And we open the door again. It's 3:00 in the afternoon. 3 of us hear her voice.
Yeah.
And we open the door, and no one's there. And that's when we realized, like, yeah, this weird thing's gonna be happening for
life.
For life, yeah. And then there was a day when we had an electric stove, we had an electric heater. It blew up all of a sudden, like at 4 a.m. We woke up. We had like our boogers were black. We had like our faces were like covered in black in charcoal
because it was like
because the heater blew
already.
up. Yeah, it was all smoking, whatever.
Oh my God.
4:00, and then later on in the day, we got a long distance phone call from Manila. I think that was the day her dad died, and she was like, "What time did he pass away?" And people, because there was no time difference, they were like, "She passed away at 4 a.m."
Well then,
so my mom was like, "Oh, well." Of course, nothing is proven. It could be coincidence. I mean, but it's just strange.
But that's so scary because that could have potentially killed you all.
Exactly, but it didn't. So I think the takeaway there was maybe it's just really sending a message, because heaters and electricity, whatever, that it is dangerous, but none of us were harmed. It's just that we had black boogers for the rest of the day, and as soon as they smelled the smoke, we lived on base, so everything was efficient.
Yeah.
So in 15 minutes, the base electrician was there.
Yeah.
And how in other countries everything's so efficient. Like base, the on base technician was there. They had a fire truck outside. They had police outside.
Yeah.
So it was taken care of. It was nothing dangerous, but definitely a message was trying to be sent.
Right.
So that was our takeaway from it. So we were like, okay, all right, another weird
noted with thanks
thing happening, and
not so much thanks.
The backyard, we'd hear
in Okinawa still.
Yeah, in Okinawa, we'd hear a baby was crying for 2 hours. It started at around, according to my mom, it was 1 a.m. It was crying so loud because at the back of our house was a playground.
Okay.
It was crying so loud.
Like a public playground?
Like a public playground.
Okay.
And then houses they were spaced. They weren't too far apart from each other, but they were spaced well. Everybody had their own lawn. Everybody had their own backyard. And at the back of the backyard was the communal playground.
Sure.
So it cried so loud. One, it woke me up because I was a kid. I was usually, kids are knocked out for the night.
Yeah.
I woke up. My sister woke up. My dad woke up. And then we could see from the window that our neighbors were waking up. Everyone was turning on their porch lights and whatnot. And that was 1 a.m. because it was already at 2:30 a.m. The crying still would not stop. So finally somebody called 911. And because the worry there is there might be a
child.
Actual fucking child like at 2 a.m. outside. You never know what happened to the parent or whatever. So we called 911. It was a big spectacle. It was because they sent over two police trucks. Because, we're talking about a baby. A baby can easily get into trouble, right? or like even the neighborhood dog could do a lot of harm to a baby. So they sent over a fire truck. There was a helicopter.
What?
Because, it was in the middle of the night.
It's a search.
It was a search for where's that fucking baby? And they had fire trucks again. I mean, everything was so efficient in Okinawa because you were on base. You were on a military base.
But everybody heard it.
Everybody heard it. And then when everybody sensed, when the police got there, everyone came out of their houses. Everybody had flashlights. It was a neighborhood thing.
Yeah.
And everybody looked out for each other. And even like, we weren't the only kids who were awake. Everybody was awake.
Yeah.
And everybody searched the playground. Nothing.
And everybody heard it coming from the same general direction.
Exactly. Because, we were sort of the houses sort of encircled the playground.
Yeah.
So that baby couldn't have possibly gotten that far. But the cries were so loud. And that's one thing that didn't make sense because by logic, if everybody heard the same loud cry, that meant it should have been in the middle for everybody to hear it at the same level to wake everybody up. And mind you, we're talking about air-conditioned houses, houses that are closed. And the only thing that happens 24 hours is the
patrols.
The patrol, the military patrol, because again, it is a base. So there's nothing to be scared of in when you're living on base.
Super safe.
Yeah, you're super safe. So the concern was there was a baby that was lost or that was roaming around. And that's when my mom first told me about because we all went in at around 4 a.m. Everybody was like, well, there's no baby crying now. And
so when the police, everybody came there, it stopped?
Yeah.
Oh.
And the thing is, the thing that bothered everyone is it cried for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it means it might have stopped because something was wrong. Yeah. Something bad happened. That's what was worrying everybody. No one was even thinking about the supernatural element.
Yeah.
And then when we all got back in, because it was a school day, and my dad was like, fuck, how am I supposed to go to work? And me and my sister, we were like, fuck, how do we go to school? We've been up all night. And my mom, she made us hot cocoa and whatever. And she said, in the Philippines, there is a story about babies, mga tiyanak, mga whatever. So that's how I learned.
Thanks, Mom.
That's how I learned about Philippine lower mythology, because something strange would happen. And then my mom would say, back in the Philippines,
we have these stories.
There are stories of of a baby crying, of a woman in white, because we saw all of that. We experienced a lot of that in Okinawa, which is weird. That's why I was convinced that, how every country has its own culture. Every country has its own. But the similarities, like the lady in white, and the crying baby, and I was like, that's amazing. So, and each country, I mean, it's easy to say, oh, this guy's crazy or whatever.
Yeah.
But does that mean that probably every country has a crazy guy? But the details and the way the stories pan out, I was like, there are a lot of similarities. So I think this is a pretty universal thing.
It's like some kind of collective unconscious situation.
Exactly.
Or subconscious or something.
So, and a lot of it really got worse when we moved back here.
Worse.
So, because, I was terrified the first few, we land in the Philippines. The hot dogs are red. People talk English funny. I was like, I fucking hate this place. And, in the evenings, we lived. What was worse is when we moved back here, because my dad was retired. He wanted peace and quiet. Sure. So you get that in the province. So we moved to the province. And, it was so hard. Like the jeeps, local transport stopped at 6 p.m. Where we moved to Obando, Bulacan. And we had no 7-Elevens. We didn't even have landlines. Our water came from the ground.
Poso.
Yeah, probinsya talaga, like province living. And even yung mga inuman, like yung mga tambay sa Obando, they'd start drinking at 6. They'd be done by 9.
Really?
So everyone was asleep by 10 because people woke up really early. Like our local bakery was open at 4 a.m. already.
Yeah.
So people slept early, and that terrified the shit out of me.
Quiet by 10, complete silence.
Yeah. So the first month, I'm like, oh, fuck, what's going to happen? And, there was so much story surrounding the house. Our house was built on at the back of our house. There were only two things: fish, like really big fish ponds, yung mga palaisdaan,
Yeah.
and just like vegetation, nothing. We
like fields,
and we were at the end of an inside yung eskinita. We were the end. Sa likod talaga wala nang bahay, wala nang everything. It was open. And I remember the very first month we were there, ang dami kaagad na nangyari. Like one time, because my dad's, again, he's a military guy. These guys are up at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And they follow a strict schedule.
Yeah.
So my dad, nasanay kami na secure sa Okinawa na at 3 a.m. you could go outside the house. Nothing will happen.
Sure.
So my dad, he wanted to stick to his schedule. At 3 a.m., he tends to the garden and then he does his exercises or whatever. One time, the first week we were there, and this is my dad talking. My dad, he's a military guy. He's as tough as they come.
Yeah.
He was like, the strangest thing happened to me this morning, and my mom was like, oh, okay. Oh, this is over breakfast. It's around 6 a.m. My dad was like, at around 4 a.m., I was walking around the house. I was cleaning the garden and whatever, and I could feel something was following me
around the garden.
Around the garden, like he was tending to the everyday whatever. And when he turned back, my dad is like 6'2". When he turned around, he was staring into the face of a chicken.
A chicken
as tall as he was.
What?
And he was like, I don't know what that is, but that's either the biggest chicken I've ever seen, or and he was and my mom was like, what did the chicken do? And my dad was like, I swear he was staring straight into my eyes, and he was just looking at me. And my dad and my mom, because there was a well, that's when we found out the story. There was a well in front of the house. Apparently, the story is during the Japanese occupation of Manila. Apparently, they hid some whatever. They hid something down the well, probably maybe gold or whatever it is. And apparently, like our neighbors said, may mga nagbabantay dyan sa well na yan, because our neighbors were saying, "Oh, your dad saw the chicken."
The chicken. And
they knew what my dad was talking about, and they were like, sometimes it's not a chicken, sometimes it's the St. Elmo's fire, yung San Telmo. They say in the evenings, we'd look over at your house, and near where the well was, which was covered up now, they'd see like small balls of fire like rolling around the house, and they were like, "Swerte yan."
Like they said it was lucky?
It was a sign of luck. And they were like, may kayamanan siguro dyan na nakabaon dun sa balon and whatever. And they were like, as long as they don't harm you, we think they're guarding your house.
Okay.
And they were like, ginugulo ba kayo or whatever? And my dad was like, not really. It's just that I'm having a hard time processing a 6-foot fucking chicken. And but
fair enough, Tito.
Yeah, and I was like, so that would happen. There was another night we were all awakened by the sound of like really, really hard, like a really hard series of thuds on our roof.
Okay.
And then it was the first time I saw my dad panic.
And your roof is like made of like,
it was a pretty modern house. Yeah. And we didn't live like, look, it wasn't a fucking shanty. I mean, it was fortified. My dad was in the military. He had a he had a certain way of wanting things. So our house was secure, but we'd hear it and it was getting louder and louder. And then I remember it because it was the first time I saw my dad panic. And then he woke everybody up and he was like, everybody gather in the living room.
Okay.
And then it was the first time I didn't even know my dad, but I figured I always sort of knew, but I never saw it. But it was the first time I saw my dad pull out his guns, his firearms, because he wasn't a fan of firearms to begin with. But I guess being in the military, he had amassed a sort of collection. Yeah. So he brought out the gun, and we all looked at the time, and it was like 1:30 in the morning.
Okay.
And then my dad instructed my mom. I remember he told my mom in a panic voice, "Sindihan mo lahat ng ilaw." And my mom
To turn on
and
all the lights.
even the ones outside. And my dad was, "If you turn on all the lights, we'll know where it is."
Jesus.
Because, the shadow or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it got louder and louder. And then my mom was like, "Basta whatever happens, no one opens any doors. As long as it's outside." And then my dad was like, so we were awake. And my dad was like, "Hey, you guys want something to eat?" Because again, he's trying to calm us down as well. He doesn't want to cause any panic. This was a time we had no landline. We had no communication.
But he was visibly shaking.
But he was shaken. It was like a military panic. When someone's about to pull the trigger.
Alert.
Yeah, he wasn't scared, but he was alert.
Yeah.
And then my dad was like, "Yeah, mo siya." And then that's when I realized a few moments later, my mom went to because the kitchen was near the living room area, and that's when I saw it. My mom went for the salt and the garlic.
What? Okay.
So, and I was like, yeah, I've heard enough stories to know what you're preparing
Getting those for.
Yeah, and it didn't bother us too long. I think the whole thing happened like maybe in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Counting maybe 30 minutes when we were all awake and we were all in the living room. And yeah, after about a few more minutes, all we heard was the sound of wings flying away.
What?
Getting softer and softer until we couldn't hear it anymore. And that was the first time. It wasn't a catchphrase then, but it was the first time my dad quipped and joked. It was like, "Yep, we're back in the Philippines." It wasn't a thing yet, but yeah, welcome to the Philippines, motherfuckers. We never saw it. We never found out what it was, but we told the neighbors about it. And this time, being in the Philippines, our neighbors were pretty close to our house.
Yeah. So
what we heard, they probably would have heard.
Yeah.
And our neighbors, not in a detrimental way, but they had, the structures of their houses were a lot simpler. Like pure hierro talaga, not too much cement. Yeah. So we were confident they heard what we heard.
Sure.
And then the next day, their stories started pouring in, and they were like, at 4 a.m. kasi yung like the bakery.
Yeah, it opens at 4.
It opens at 4, but you can arrange for them to bring you your bread if you want. You can have it delivered to your house, basta malapit. May inuutosan silang boy and whatever. And then the boy was like, "You know why we stopped delivering to your house?"
Jeez.
Because sometimes when we'd be on the way, nasa loob na sila ng skinita, they were like, we'd actually see things moving around your house.
Around your house, inside the house.
Like the perimeter of the house.
Oh, around the house.
Yeah, around the house. And stories, and then kumalat na, it's a small town, chismoso mga tao.
That haunted house.
Look at that house. That's where yung mga D-zone, that's where they live. Yeah. There was one time may wake sa tabing bahay, and then early in the morning, like 3 a.m., yung mga lasing from the wake, like the drunk guys who were manning the wake, they were knocking on our door furiously, and they were like, "Pwedeng makidaan." They wanted to pass
through. They
wanted to enter the gate of our house to pass through to get access to the back of our house, which was again a fish pond.
Okay.
And they were like, "Nakita namin." All they said was, "We saw it. It was a woman, and it was flying, and it landed behind your house." And they were like, and the whole movie thing, they had, they didn't have torches. They had flashlights. Pero they had like, bamboo,
like
sharpened bamboo
stuff.
poles. Yung isa may dalang baril. And they were like, naglanding. They were like, "We're sorry to bother you, but we need access
to get there.
To get dun sa likod nyo." Because we were the only way you could get to the fish pond. We had that access. So, and my dad was like, "Well, yeah, there were like 5 guys." And my dad was like, "You could argue they're all drunk because nakainom lahat." But then my dad was like, "But 5 guys and
you knew them."
Yeah, we knew them. They were our neighbors, and Plus, they weren't asking for anything. They just wanted access.
Okay.
And my dad was like, it'd be a pretty different thing if they were like, oh, we need access. We're here to hunt down whatever is at the back of your house and you need to pay us. That's a different story.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
all they wanted was access. And they were like, kahapon pa yan kasi buntis yung asawa ni ganito. So it became like sort of a fact of life. And mind you, this was like 89, 91, 92. There were 7-Elevens in the country already. Like
Yeah.
there were parts of the country, especially in Manila, that were 24 hours now.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy fuck, this shit still happens? And isn't it crowded already? Like,
But this is Bulacan.
Yeah, and that's what my mom said. It's still the province. And, you know, she'd always scare me. Imagine, like, more and more people are moving into our neighborhood. Where do they go?
Right.
And my mom was like, if you take somebody's land or if you take someone's dwelling place, whoever or whatever is going to get pissed off.
Fair enough.
And my mom was like, think about that. Because it was happening on a very regular basis. That's why I was sort of convinced that, is this land that we, is it cursed? Is it whatever? Or there would be nights when I was already in college. There would be nights like, in the middle of the night, you got to use the bathroom or you got to get a drink of water. There'd be nights on the way back to my room. I'd literally...
What?
Like, we'd literally stop in our tracks. May makakasalubong talaga ako. And
what?
It's nothing solid, but it's there. Shadow people. Like you could trace out the form. You just can't see the face or there are no details. But we'd literally magkakasalubong kami sa door. And then the funny thing, thinking about it now, it's funny because sabay din kaming uurong. It's like...
Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah, he wasn't... Whatever that wasn't also expecting to come across me. And, it's like purely accidental stuff. Like, I'd shut off the TV. And those old school TVs.
Yeah.
I'd shut off the TV. I'd be sitting in front of the TV on a couch. I'd shut off the TV. And then in the reflection, I'd see something here. And it wasn't trying to scare me. Because as soon as I'd see it, it'd disappear. And I was like, yeah, it doesn't mean harm, but I guess whatever it is, it also gets careless because,
oops,
whatever.
I stepped into that plane again.
Yeah. So, we never felt threatened, but it was just amazing how, and then, I'd go back to sleep, of course, and then I'd forget about it because, yeah, at school the next day, whatever. But then during the weekend, we'd be having dinner, and I was like, you know what? The other night, this whatever happened to me. And then my sister would say, you know what happened to me? That's the same thing happened to me when I, nag-CR ako and whatever. Nakita ko talaga, dumaan siya sa, in the case of my sister, she closed the door, but again, you could see any light and whatever. And she could see something was moving outside the door.
Right. When you see someone pass through the light. Exactly.
So there were a lot of stories like that to the point where in college, I tell my buddies, like this is 1998, 99. And again, this is pretty modern. It was pretty modern times. I remember I had a batchmate because, I tell these stories during Inuman, whatever, it's bullshitting and whatever. And I was like, I really saw it. And he didn't believe me that he actually challenged me.
Okay.
He was like, all right, tonight I'm sleeping at your place.
Sure.
I was like, I don't fucking care. Go ahead. Be my guest. I rarely get guests. And, my mom's going to be thrilled that, and then making friends and whatever. So he sleeps at my house. And as, strange immediately, as if on cue, shit starts happening. We get to my house at around 7:00 in the evening.
Yeah.
I leave him in. We had a library where it was library/computer room.
Yeah.
And so my mom was preparing dinner. And my mom was like, "Help me with this. Help me set the table, whatever." So I left my friend in the computer room, and our house wasn't air conditioned. We were in the province. It was cold. An electric fan was okay. And he comes running out of the computer room, and he was like, dude, is someone playing a trick on me? And I was like, who's that someone? There's just 4 of us here in the house. My mom, my sister, my dad. And we were all about to have dinner. And he was like, while while he was at the computer, and he was dicking around. It wasn't. I think he was dicking around with Encarta. It wasn't even the internet.
Encarta, wow.
It wasn't even the internet back then. It was just games and whatever. To his left, there was an open window, and he said someone was trying to get his attention. Like sumisitsit.
Like,
Ginaganon daw siya sa window, and when he looked, all he said was the eyes were red. And I was like, that's not possible, because the window was about 12 feet from the ground. I was like, that must have been one really big motherfucker.
Maybe it was the chicken.
Right? So he's shaken, but he was like, he's sort of still convinced that I'm playing, because he was like, no, you planned this, whatever.
You're shitting with me.
Yeah.
You told me scary stories about your house.
Exactly. So I was like, well, you know what, dude? Believe what you want. I'm hungry. I just want to have dinner. So we have dinner. We sleep. Again, it's Bulacan. It's Bando. You're supposed to be in bed by 9, 10. And my mom was like, even if you have friends over, you and your friends, you have to be asleep by 10. It's just the rules
way
of
it
the
is
house.
here.
So we sleep. Around 1 a.m., we sleep in my room, and we just sleep on the floor or whatever. Around 1 a.m., this guy's waking me up, and he's like, I gotta go home.
What?
And I was like, dude, it's 1 a.m.
How are you going to go home?
Go back to sleep. And it was like, no, I really got to go home. And I was like, dude, he was starting to be loud and whatever. It actually woke my mom. My mom was like, didn't I tell you guys to sleep?
Yeah.
And he was like, and he was apologizing to my mom. Sorry po, tita. Pero I just really want to go home. Paulit-ulit lang siya. Over and over again. I want to go home. And I was like, what the fuck happened? Like, and I knew it. I was like,
yeah.
I knew something was up. And my mom also knew it. So my mom sat with us in my room, and she was like, ano ba nangyari?
Okay.
And it was a series of events. The first time, nanaginip siya.
Okay.
He had a dream, and then he said, in his dream, we did the same exact thing. We had dinner. Okay. But he wanted to go home after dinner, 9. So this was the dream. Sabi niya raw sa akin, sige Joey, una na ako. And he was high-fiving me, whatever. And then I pointed to the street, yung skinita namin, and I was like, magpaalam ka muna sa kanila.
What?
This was inside the dream. This was the dream. Paalam ko muna sila. And then when he looked out into the street, like all manner of creatures, though, they were there.
Oh my gosh.
Like all smiling at him. And then when he looked back at me, I was smiling back at him, and I was transforming into this whatever. So that was the dream. It was so disturbing though. And I was like, and my mom was trying to rationalize it as well. He was like, you know why? Because you came here with
looking
a motive.
For that.
I know, and it's in your brain, and that's what you're scaring yourself. And my mom was like, look, I can't allow you to go home.
Yeah.
It's 2 a.m. Sabi niya, sabi ng mom ko, I'd rather you spend the night with fucking ghosts and whatnot. You don't know what's out there. Baka may mga addict. Baka, like the people who will do harm.
Yeah.
So my mom was like, I can't allow you. Sabi, tapos, my mom even offered, do you want me to leave the light on? And my mom was like, do you want to sleep in our room? Which,
wow.
My mom and dad's room. And they were like, you just sleep, but you got to be quiet. Kasi, Joey's dad is sleeping. And I was like, look, we're safe. We're inside. Nothing's going to happen inside. So he was like, okay, I'll try. So just try to go to sleep. And to calm him down, my mom actually stayed in the room, and my mom, she just found something to do. And I found something to do. I was like, I was reading a book or some shit. I was like, you go ahead, you sleep. I'll wait for you to fall asleep. So
okay.
So my buddy falls asleep. My mom goes back to her room, and I'm still sleepy. So I turn off the light.
This is college, right?
This is college.
So you're adults.
We're adults. So that happened around 1:30 a.m. We fall asleep. At 4 a.m., here's my buddy again waking me up. And it was like, look, it's 4 a.m. It's early enough. Bukas na yung, sabi niya, didn't you tell me na yung the bakery bukas na ng 4? So that should be okay. I was like, dude, the thing is, the walk from our house to yung panaderia, it's, if someone really wants to do harm, it's a long walk. Sabi kong ganun. Because we were also having, it was the beginnings of problems with drugs in the neighborhood and whatnot. And sabi ko, look, my mom's not going to let you. Sabi ko, dude, 4 a.m. is no different from 6 a.m. Just wait for 6 a.m.
Stay up.
Yeah. Sabi ko, let's just let's just wait for it. And then he was really shaken, and he was like, I really want to go home. And he was like, this is the first time he said that I'm never coming back to this house.
Wow.
I was like, what happened? And then he was like, as soon as you fell asleep, he woke up now, and there was knocking on the window.
Okay.
So window, parang ganyan, ano. And then it was persistent. It didn't stop. And he felt that it was getting louder. And he was like, I'm surprised it didn't wake you. It was really loud now. And then when he had the courage to look at the window now, he saw an old woman now smiling at him from the window, which was again 12 feet from the ground.
Definitely not the chicken.
So yeah, so what happened was we said we're a wreck, like we're sleepless and whatever. So what happened was we just waited till 6 a.m. And at 6 a.m. he kept his word. And my mom was like, I cooked breakfast. My mom woke up at 5. She cooked breakfast and whatever. And my friend didn't want. He just wanted to leave.
I want out.
So he didn't have breakfast. He didn't have whatever. And then sabi ko, samahan na kita, sakay na kita ng jeep. And it was the last time my friend teased me about the story
The
that I
house.
would tell him, and the house. He never mentioned it ever again. He never. We're still friends now, but he never mentions it. And one time I was trying to say, hey, remember that time you went over to my house, you were sleeping, and you were fucking scared? And he was like, I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I can respect that. Yeah.
So the moment he saw the old lady, he started waking you up and was like,
again, yeah, that was 4 a.m. And I was like, and I was like, you know what your problem is? I was just telling you stories. You didn't have to be a dick about it, and I was like, what were you thinking in your mind? And in his mind, because the first thing I forgot to say, as soon as he arrived at our house,
okay,
he says in a loud voice, "Oh, nasaan na yung mga multo?"
naman kasi.
So I was like, okay, that's what you get, man. I mean, you were looking for it, you found it, and the thing is that the strangest thing, the entire time he was there, I didn't see anything. And I was like, you know why? Because I don't want to see
Joey,
it.
we're busy.
Yeah. Plus, it's not like, even though I was never curious about it, because again, I was terrified of it. So even though I felt, sometimes there were times that there was one time we were watching the news. Me, my dad, my sister, my mom were watching the news. Again, the window's there, the TV's in front. It's still a little light outside. It's like 5:30 in the afternoon. So it's palubog pa lang yung araw. And we see it. At the same time, big fucking figure passes through the window in slow motion. Like really slow. And I could imagine how he looked like. It must have been really funny. Sabay-sabay kaming gumanon. Sinunda namin. It was really slow. It was the figure of a dude, like head, arms, side view, whatever. But then we realized, fuck, the house is 12 feet off the ground. That's impossible.
The house is 12 feet off the ground?
The window is 12 feet off from the base of the ground. So if you were standing outside, imposibleng makita ka namin. Like,
so it was like an elevated house.
It was an elevated house. Kasi bahain eh, diba? So, banda, whatever. So super elevated, impossible. But the head of the figure that we saw was almost at the edge of the window.
What's up with tall things in your house, man?
I don't know.
Or around your house? Tall chickens, tall ladies.
It was funny because I called that ghost Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or something. I was like, Jabbar's at it again.
Just to sort of make light of it.
And the freaky shit was, it was happening when, not all the freaky stuff happened when, like, during the evening. Some of it happened like
broad daylight.
My doppelganger, they saw my
Excuse me, what?
I had a doppelganger. It was one time in college. My mom actually had to call. There weren't any cell phones yet, so she had to call
what happened?
The faculty. Apparently, I was at the gate. She knew I was in class. She knew for a fact that I was in class, and she calls me, and then through the faculty phone, and then they tracked me down, and she was like, "Where are you?" And I was like, "At school." And she was like, "Okay, whatever you do, stay in school, and then right after school, go back." I was living in an apartment near España.
Okay.
And she was like, whatever you do after your class, just go straight home. Sabi niya,
to España.
Just trust me on this. And I was like, why? And then in the background, I could hear my sister. There was commotion. My dog was like really angry. And I could hear the sound of the gate. There was tapping on the gate. And then my mom was like, you know what's happening? We're looking at you right now. you're at the gate.
What?
And the dog is freaking out. Galit na galit daw yung aso. And then I could hear my sister, nakalabas yung pangil ni Shishe. My dog was there. That was his name, Shishe.
Growling
Nakalabas
and
yung pangil.
everything.
And the weird thing is, all I was saying daw at the gate was, Mami, pakibuksan yung gate.
Okay.
Papasok ako. But the weird thing was, anyone could have entered our gate. We didn't have like locks or whatever. All we had was that bar that you could just slide on for yourself. So I never asked anybody to open the gate for me. I just opened it myself. And my mom knew immediately that something was wrong. And she was like, that's not you. And my mom was on the phone with me. She was like, I'm looking at you right now. You're at the gate.
Like she could see your face
like
and
she could
everything.
see my face. And I was talking. And the dog knew. The dog was like super, super aggro. And yeah, my mom was like, go home. Listen, sabi niya, listen to me this time. Because she was like, I don't know what it is. You're you know how they say that the soul wanders whenever there's a near death or an accident's waiting to happen. Or she was like, maybe it's a doppelganger. Apparently, which started the tradition in, even in depressed areas, wherein even if you don't have like a physical cross, they paint crosses on their doors. Apparently, it's to ward off spirits like that, because the folklore behind it is there are spirits who wander, who imitate who you are, and if you let them in their house, they end up killing the people inside the house. So that's where that tradition of painting crosses, even if if your house was like made of hierro or whatever, you'd always just remember to paint a cross in front of the house. That was sort of like the folklore in our place, that if you let those things in, they will do harm. And my mom was freaking out. She was like,
and your sister saw it too.
My sister saw it too. My dog saw it too. And my dog was super, super, super aggro. And my dog's was the nicest dog. Like, he never got mad. He was, but my sister was like, wow, he's showing all his fangs and he's pulling on his chain. They thought he was going to pull the window out because his chain was attached to one of the windows. And my sister was like, whatever the dog saw, he didn't like it. He was super mad at it. And then, so I decided for once, I decided to take my mom's advice. I went home. And in the evening, for some weird reason, like late in the evening, I got a call from her the next day again. During the late hours of the evening, the chandelier in the house almost fell on my mom's face.
What?
Because she was sleeping on the couch and it missed her face by a few inches.
Jesus.
And that chandelier, that was up, like I said, like they spent their entire lives in the States. Like,
yeah, they
built a pretty solid house, and for that chandelier to just drop, I was like, and my mom was like, this stuff isn't natural anymore, and whatever.
So that figure that was you or not you
never bothered us again, but it was there for. My mom was like, she was. I think the next day when she called me, she was like, you were there for a good 20-25 minutes.
And then it left?
It just disappeared. The dog stopped barking because when they realized it wasn't me, they didn't want to look at it. Yeah, they didn't want to look at it. And my sister was like, she was just worried about the dog. Right. Because my sister also didn't want the dog to approach it or whatever it was.
Like if it had gotten loose or...
Yeah, so my sister was from the window. She opened part of the screen and then she was just hanging onto the chain. So they weren't really looking directly at whatever it was at the gate. So that was I guess to date, that was one of the freakiest things that's ever happened to us.
Really freaky. And I'm like, they had their presence of mind about them.
And it was lunchtime.
It was lunchtime.
Yeah. It didn't happen in the evening. It was lunchtime. Because I was still at school when it happened.
Jeez.
So, and I remember thinking to myself, this is getting out of hand. I mean, you guys can fucking have the evening if you want, the early morning, but don't fucking take lunchtime. I mean, I gotta do shit.
When is it safe for me to go out?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, freaky shit like that. There's a lot of stories that I'm forgetting now, but there's a shitload of them. Like I said, I was like the resident ghost storyteller during countless inumans in college.
Maybe we'll have a part 2 for you, Joey, because I feel like there's so much more.
There's so much more. Unfortunately, now, we moved, and and there was my same worry, like when Ondoy happened, the house got wrecked, and it's not livable. But we do have a few caretakers who live there, and we get a kick out of the stories they share.
So they still have stories to share about.
Oh yeah,
that
and the house, like if it was like 12 feet elevated from the rest of now it's just like it's like half of the house is like submerged in mud and whatever. And so it's totally wrecked. But our caretakers, they lost their house, and so we made a deal. They were like,
you can live here.
You can live in our house, just take care of it, clean it every now and then. We're not expecting you to restore it, but just clean it. And then we still have a few precious belongings over there that we can't really transport back here. Like I left all my shit there out of fear that I might take some of my old toys and then something might be attached to that toy. So I was like, I'm not bringing that to the new fucking house. I'll just leave it there and try to forget about it in the meantime. So that was the deal. And then, we'd get late night calls. Now that, it's like, it was pretty wild. Like I remember in 2017, we got like a call at 1 a.m. And it was the landlord, yung mag-asawa, the husband and wife. They had 3 kids, and they were like,
of the
"We're
caretakers
really sorry.
in the house?
Yeah, we're really sorry. We gotta leave this house." And we were like, "Why? What happened?" Apparently, they were sleeping. It started out though. The first manifestations though, according to them, this is their story. I'm not saying it's true. It's just their story. They'd all sleep. They all took rooms each, but then they couldn't sleep.
Okay.
And then, especially the kids, they claimed to hear stuff. Someone was whispering into the ear of one of the kids, like all sorts of whatever. So they all, after when that started happening, they all decided to just sleep in the living room. Natabi-tabi sila in the living room. And then whenever they'd sleep, like early in the morning, 2, 3 a.m., it'd be like there was a stampede inside my room.
Okay.
Like it sounded like, I remember the caretaker describing it. It sounded like 100 people fighting inside my room. And they were like, we were like, oh yeah, it's a weird fucking house. And, I mean, we told you because we did tell them. They were like, because I was like, it is a weird house. And I don't like it. Ever since Ondoy happened, I never went back. Right. I was terrified of that house. That's why I got an apartment when I was in college. I was like, I can't go out drinking with my buddies and go home at 2 a.m. to the fucking house. And I was like, I have a heart attack. So that's why I got an apartment aside from the fact that it was hard commuting from UST to Bulacan. But that played a big part. I was like, I don't want to be here at 3 a.m. walking around my fucking haunted house. And so that happened, but then it got progressively worse. Like, one time they were all sleeping and the youngest started shouting, crying and whatever, panicking. So they all woke up, and according to the landlord, they literally saw his foot was in the air.
The youngest child.
And he moved a few feet as if being dragged by an unseen. This is what my landlord said. I'm not saying it's true, but it's what my landlord said. And he said, I saw my son get dragged a few feet in front of me.
And that's when it started not to be okay, like anymore. Like this is not.
So what happened was, we told the landlord, okay, you don't have to sleep there. Just fix it. And then, when it's the afternoon, but before sundown, you could just leave it. And my landlord, it was pretty funny because my landlord was like, no one's going to fucking rob this house. It was like, I'd like to see the guy who tries to fucking try and rob this house.
But that's weird because like it seems to be a lot more persistent and violent with them, or at least like
or maybe they just, because one thing that my mom taught us growing up with all these weird things happening is acknowledge them. Yeah. Don't be afraid of them, but acknowledge them. Like my mom was like a little religious, so whenever just weird things would happen, she'd close her eyes, take a few seconds, say a prayer, and it'd stop. It was they were just making their presence felt, by like being dragged a few feet across the floor. I was like, you must have been ignoring them, or you must have not been acknowledging them somehow. And the funny thing is, late last year, around the Burr months, I finally went back. to the house.
To that specific house.
Yeah, to the house. I was like, yeah, I gotta look for some because I collect toys, and I was like, I had that toy, but fuck, it's in the old house. So I actually went there. I made sure it was super early. The caretakers never left. The husband and wife never left. It was the kids who left.
Sure.
Because again, they were homeless.
Yeah.
They didn't have enough money to build a new house, so they were like, okay, you stay with your friends, you stay with your tita, but me and him and the wife, they were
this
like,
we got.
Yeah, this is what we have. And even though it's submerged, half of it's submerged, it's still a pretty big fucking house. So they were like, it's still good, better than nothing. So I went there. I made sure I went there. I think I went there at 10 a.m. I was like, yeah, fucking nothing's going to get me at 10 a.m. Like, fuck all of you and whatever. I remember going to the house and the vibe was just super off.
Welcome home, Joey.
Yeah, I was like, oh, damn, whatever it is. Like, it didn't feel like the awkwardness wasn't there. When you haven't been into your house in like a decade or so, the awkwardness wasn't there. It felt like my house. And I was like, yeah, the vibe is there.
This is it.
So just to be safe, I remember what I did was nagpagpag ako. You do that kapag may patay,
yeah.
But what I did was, before going home to my house or my condo here in Ortigas.
Did you go to a 7-Eleven?
No, I purposely went to one of my old high school friends' house.
Oh, thanks.
That guy who I didn't like that much.
Oh, thanks.
And it was under the guy said, hey, I was in the neighborhood, just wanted to say hi. But I was thinking to myself, fuck you, now you got to deal with whatever it is.
That's so mean.
So, but I haven't heard any stories from him. So I guess hindi naman nag-hitch. But I think more than the house, it was the area, the land, probably. I mean, I don't really blame the house. And I remember, like, looking back now, like telling all these stories and whatnot. When we were living in that house, we were at each other's throats. We just wanted to kill each other. Like, we were fighting over the simplest things, and there was so much negativity around that house. And when you moved into this new house, of course, that was one of my first worries. Like, fuck, do we get another fucking haunted house? But then, when we moved in here, everything's been chill. Like.
Okay.
Like, everyone's a little more patient. We actually talk about some issues now. And, we actually have our own timeouts. Like if I'm in a rotten mood, I'd go to the garden, I'd cool off. But when we were in that house, we were really at each other's throats. Like, looking back now, I think it had something to do with it. Like, living in that house and that space
area.
The thing is, it was built, it was brand new when we moved in. We had it built, but I was like, it's probably the land. Number one, whatever was there got disturbed. Like that well that they covered up, because a lot of people were convincing my mom, don't cover up the well, don't at least don't fuck with your surroundings and whatnot. But my mom wanted it covered up because we were kids.
Yeah, dangerous.
It's dangerous. Baka maglaro sila, may malaglag. And then it never got blessed. But my dad's like he's a Catholic, like a diehard Catholic. So we had religious figures everywhere, like in each room. We had a grotto in the garden and whatever. But I just think that we weren't welcome in that place, and it really showed. Like the fights were really violent and whatnot, like between family members, and we'd fight over the stupidest shit. There was so much unrest, and I was like, yeah, that's probably. So yeah,
I'm really glad you moved out of that space.
Yeah.
For everyone involved,
I'm thinking about doing tours there now, charging money for it.
You could do that. Well, anyway, thanks so much for joining us today, Joey. If you're down, we could have a part 2. Let's see how people like this episode. But is there anything you'd like to share with all the people? What are you up to these days?
These days, I play guitar for a band called Alex in Wonderland. You could listen to us. We're coming out with a music video pretty soon. Tune in every Saturday on Jam 88.3. We have a show called Adults Only Radio. It's glam rock stuff. It's old people stuff. So it's glam rock, grunge, alternative, post-glam, AOR. It's every Saturday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. I co-host it with Benny and Edsel. And also the podcast, which is also housed by Big Baby Manila, Kill the Lights. Everything dark, on the fringes, horror, whatever. We like to watch horror movies and talk about it. And yeah, we're into exploring dark culture, dark underground culture. So if that's your thing, Kill the Lights PH. You can listen to us everywhere, basically.
Everywhere.
Yeah, Spotify, iTunes, whatever the fuck you want to listen to. Yeah, a lot of stuff. Yeah, just follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. I do have an Instagram account. It's Joey D Zone 23. So yeah, that's basically it.
Super cool. Thanks so much for your time, Joey.
If you want more stories, just send money over to Big Baby Manila. So it's $1,000 per story. So just kidding. But yeah, there are many other stories. So yeah, hit us up if you want to hear more of them.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks. We'll talk to you guys soon. Grimcast Manila is a podcast of creepy stories from around the metro and is recorded at Big Baby Studios. Check back next week for another episode. In the meantime, have a spooky day.